Hi everyone, I want to talk about stat requirements for the Giants dungeon. Um, I'm only going to talk about crit rate, accuracy, and speed because I think that those are some things that maybe you might not think about as much because for speed runs I feel like some people um, they mostly tend to just try and get as much damage and crit damage and attack as possible. So um, first off here is the speed, the different waves in Giants B10. The max speed that anyone gets up to of the enemies is 140. So you want to try and go before the waves so that they don't each get an attack on you before you even get to move. Because sometimes those attacks will freeze you and you just have bad RNG and they'll kill you. But also, if you're trying to go for speed runs, um, just those little attacks on different waves, that's going to slow you down quite a bit. So if you look at this chart that I have up here, the spreadsheet, this has the stats of all the different waves, and you see 140 here. So what I did is I have a few monsters on here, and I have my speed tower right here. That's a speed tower multiplier. I have the base speed of all the monsters, and then the total speed is just the base speed that is taking into account the speed tower multiplier, 15%. So, for example, Lucian, he's going to be at about 119 speed if you have a max speed tower. So all you need is plus 22 more speed to be able to outspeed all of the waves. And so that's just something that you want to, whatever your Giants team is, you want to make sure that you can outspeed all of the waves. It's going to make everything more reliable and just it's going to make the run a lot faster. So 140 speed, try and get there. You can see my Lucian here. It's just barely cutting it, plus 22, and then I have as much attack and crit damage possible with a decent crit rate. So, some monsters you're not really going to have to worry about, like Galleon or Teor, or if you're doing Stella, because those monsters pretty much need a lot of speed. Stella and Teor need it because it actually helps their damage. Galleon, you want fast just to apply the debuffs first. So make sure you hit that 140 speed. The next thing I want to talk about is accuracy. You're going to need it to make your runs more reliable. If you can't apply that defense debuff on the boss, you're going to fail. So sometimes I think it's really good to have more than one monster to apply that debuff. Usually Galleon is used in every Giants team. I've seen Stella used, and also Tark is good for because it has the, what's that skill called? Group Hunt. And so it grabs some allies, so it can grab Galleon in there, or if you have Stella and Galleon in there, it can grab both of them, and everyone tries to get that defense break on. So the accuracy cap for Giants is 45%. You want to get 45% if you're going to be applying a defense break. So Galleon, that's a little bit overkill for Giants, but I use him in more than just Giants. Stella, that's also a little bit overkill, but you'll find out later in the Dragons video that I do for stats requirements why I have the accuracy so high here. For your damage dealers like Lucian, it doesn't really matter because they're not applying a debuff, they're just there to hit hard. Sure, the second ability can apply slow to the boss, or it can apply more debuffs to the different waves, but really it's a damage dealer. So the only ones I'm focused on for getting that 45% accuracy is for anyone with a defense break. So 140 speed, 45% accuracy. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the crit rate. So you got to keep in mind that if you have a wind monster you're going to have elemental advantage. And what that does is it adds an extra 15% crit rate. So my Lucians, 84 and 81, they're both wind monsters. So really this 81 turns into a 96 and the 84 turns into a 99% crit rate. So just keep that in mind. Anything below 80%, I'm pretty skeptical of. Even though I do have my Teor, it's only at 78%. It works, but it's just not quite as reliable as it could be, because, you know, if you line it up right, you have Galleon defense break, you have an attack buff, and then you go and attack with your biggest nukers, and they miss the crit. That's really bad. I mean, if you think about it, that whole rune only works. The whole crit damage rune only works if you land the crit. So having it be reliable is really important. So also keep in mind, if you have a crit rate leader, if you have Theo or Pungbek or Teshar, they have crit rate leads, and so that can help a lot. Theo Mars I have at 66% crit rate, but he always has elemental advantage because of his passive, so really that bumps it up right there to 81%. And so if he was a crit rate lead, or if there was a crit rate lead, all of a sudden that would be, the 66% would be over 100%. Obviously it caps out at 100, but just keep in mind you want it consistent, and you have elemental advantages. If you have a crit rate lead for Lucians, you're gonna so the Lucians already get their 15% plus 24% from Theo, so all of a sudden you have a 39% crit lead, or crit rate buff. So if you had these guys down at, I mean, even 50% crit rate, they're still going to be pretty high up there because of that crit rate buff. So you can either choose to do a Lucian lead with a DAC power buff and try and just meet your crit rates by your rune stats, or you can have the crit rate a little bit lower and try and get up there with the leader skills. So that's all I want to talk about for Giant stats, and I'll see you in the next video.